You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Dean Johnson.
The AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AFTERBUZZ TV's Falling Skies After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's Falling Skies After Show.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for doing. We're here doing our final episode of Season 3. I am your host, Phil Svitek, joined alongside Nando Velasquez.
Hey!
No, it's, of course, Nando Velasquez.
What's up, man? What are you doing?
I'm good. For those of you who've been listening to the podcast, you know that joke. It's one of those things. If you don't know a person,
You don't know the name? You know my name.
it is called Brazil. And at first, when I saw the title, right before viewing the episode, I was like, why the hell is it called Brazil?
Well, I was thinking of a movie.
And what could have possibly been a correlation between the movie and the episode you were about to see at that point in time?
Oh, I can't think of it right now.
That's because there probably isn't. There probably is nothing.
Nothing.
Anyway, and it was quite a surprise to learn what Brazil actually meant. Brazil of all places. Ironic that it would be that place that they were eventually supposed to be relegated to.
Well, they would have fun during Mardi Gras. If they went to Brazil,
that could be true
during Carnival.
But let's start with the special effects of the defense grid going down. We got Weaver in Chicago. We got Dan going to Boston.
Yeah,
we got a lot of things happening here.
No, it was fun. Yeah, Weaver, Pope, and Anthony are on a train heading to Chicago, where we find out that Pope likes Chicago pizza, and Lord is in tow just in case, and they're the decoy. They're the decoy going to Chicago, making the Espheni think that they're attacking the Chicago base when really by slow boat we see Tom, Cochise, and the rest of the gang with the Volm weapon in clear view, just ready to aim it at the big tower in Boston.
What about Kadar? Kudos to Kadar. You know?
Kadar figuring it out.
Yeah, I know that was it was a major thing last episode of. Will he be able to do it?
Yeah.
Oh, yes,
94% certainty he was able to do it.
Yes, he did it.
He seems to really like the Volm language too, so he's pretty damn smart.
You know, here's the thing: as we're watching this, and as so many good things are happening so early on, did you just think this was going to be a great love fest for this finale, and like it'd just be like just dances and things like that, or were you like? Well, we're 10 minutes into this episode. This is gonna turn for the worst.
I am surprised. Well, it was very surprising to see the tower go down within the first 10 minutes before the first commercial break. Yeah. The tower went down. So crisis averted. But of course, anyone who saw the preview last week saw that the Volm definitely had something up their sleeve, so we knew there was something going on with the Volm anyway. So it definitely set up the scene for there'll be some dancing and some celebrating.
It's true, but it's always one of those things. You know, the way I attributed to last week, I think it was more of creative editing. You know, where they fool. Oh my God, the Volm are bad.
Yeah.
Oh wait, it's just a joke.
It was, yeah,
but it wasn't.
Well, a little bit. We can get into that, but it was a little bit of that. But yeah. So we definitely, it was amazing to see not really much going on with Espheni during the whole episode at all. It seemed to be a lot more just about the repercussions of taking the tower down and the Volm coming in and just can't we all get along? The Volm just trying to get used to their new digs, hanging out on Earth with the humans and.
Well, let me ask you this, big question of the season has been, is Tom justified for doing what he did? And obviously, Pope, eventually he says to Weaver, congratulations, the Volm did what the Espheni couldn't do, and they brought us to our knees. And so, was Tom right to have done this?
I think one of the things that Pope doesn't say this, but you can't get anything for free. So it's just interesting that the Vulm come down here for free, and and just willing to help out the humans, and there can't be some other little sidebar, some little side effect or some negative aspect to the Vulm coming down. So obviously being put into concentration camps, even though that's not what the Vulm were calling it, but that's what, of course, the humans see it as. That's how everyone sees it as, is the bad side of it. I mean, the humans have been spending all this time defending their home turf, and then here they are thinking that they just opened up the door for allies to come and help them out, and the allies are like, great, thanks a lot. Guess what? You don't get to stay here anyway. You get to go someplace else. So all this
is that what the French kind of felt like when we kind of when we came in? We're like, all right, we'll take it from here.
I kind of want to look it up and see and make sure. I don't think it was that.
And we didn't relocate them to Brazil by any means.
Yeah, where do you relocate them back then? I'm not sure. But I mean, the Vulm even said that they want the humans to live in comfort, peace, and safety. Now, whether or not that's just some line, or they really are going to treat them in like Club Med in Brazil, that obviously still remains to be seen. It seems like toward the end of the episode, when we see the Vulm Commander and Cochise talking, since they're father and son by themselves, they seem to be really, their intentions seem to be more pure than we would guess.
Well, let's take a step back. It was funny seeing Tom's reaction to when Cochise comes down. He's like, they're coming down. And he says, are you not pleased? I thought you'd be pleased. I'm very pleased. I was like, wait, are you playing the Cochise? Like, what's going on? And yeah. I was a little confused. That's when, I know something was kind of up.
Yeah.
It's interesting, just even the exchange of, they shook hands, right? And Tom and Weaver say, the pleasure's all ours. We would love to share this information. And it's interesting seeing Cochise's father. I'm not even pronouncing. I'm not going to try.
Don't even. Vulm Commander is fine.
Vulm Commander.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because, obviously Cochise has kind of been the sole representative to us of the Vulm. Mm-hmm. And to see his father's reactions to what really the human spirit is. And that's they've kind of gone back and forth of like, what's the greatest weapon? Cochise has said it to Tom multiple times, like it's the human spirit is the greatest weapon.
So wouldn't you want to share that human weapon? Wouldn't you want to partake in that valuable weapon with your dad or with your with the Vulm? And I'm just jumping on what you're saying here.
Yeah,
just even the fact that they are willing to give information that could be vital, being locals to the area, that could assist the Vulm, and to have the Vulm Commander dismiss them. It's interesting, and this part, just story-wise, doesn't make sense to me. They value the humans enough to care for them and put them in a camp in Brazil, but at the same time, they dismiss them when they're willing to give information that could help them in their war against the Espheni. It did feel like a bit of a wishy-washy conflict. Like, do you really respect the human race? Do you really, respect the human spirit? Or are they just little pets or fleas?
I think, to answer your question, and you can disagree or agree, I think they weren't ready for that to be, like, again, even when Cochise said it, it came as a surprise. It's almost like Gandalf in Lord of the Rings, where, like, you can know the little hobbits for 1,000 years, and yet they still manage to surprise you. Well, I think that's in the case with this, is the human beings, they no matter what can surprise you, and the human spirit lives on.
Yeah. And
it's something that Cochise learned along the way, and his father is seeing glimpses of that, but he's not ready to accept it just yet. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what we're facing.
That makes sense. Obviously, Cochise spent more time with the humans, and he was doing recon on Earth, so he got to spend a lot more time, and he had to work with the humans. The Vulm Commander is coming from his mighty position up in space, and they've done this so many times before. They've liberated planets before. And as he says, they've never had to deal with an indigenous species like this. All the other species have been very happy to be relocated, while the Vulm do the fighting. So very, very interesting, this human breed to the Vulm, apparently. Yeah, very curious.
So I think that's going to be. It's going to be interesting to see, and Pope kind of comes out in full force, and eventually Cochise even stops him of like, John Pope. But Pope is really mad about this, He's like, okay, we got the fish heads and we got the bubble heads, which one ended up being worse? And, he thinks the Vulm is, obviously he's been hinting at this, and I feel bad for Tom because, again, this kind of vindicates Pope's point all along.
Yeah, well, Pope's always so quick to jump on, any opposition or the first sign of trouble. He's willing to preach. Again, he's been very, very whiny. I like Pope more than you do, at least, but he's been incredibly whiny this whole season, and he's so quick to jump on that band, and understandably so. This episode, I mean, again, for those of us who know enough about American history, are familiar with World War II or even like world history, just what putting large groups of people of a certain type or species into camps usually ends up meaning. A lot of that was prevalent in World War II, both in Germany and with the U.S. for different reasons and different meanings, but they were both very negative. Yeah. So I can understand Pope's aggression, and I can understand Tom even doubting himself, but Tom did. I mean, Tom got to touch the Vom Commander, which when we saw it last week, it looked like an automatic swipe, but now it just seems like it was a serious breach of etiquette, and it was more like a swat away that was very, very strong, because I guess the Vom are super strong in comparison to humans. And the conversation was fairly civil once it got down to it, and like, again, the Vom Commander, I think, was very surprised at Tom's ability to negotiate or to communicate.
Yeah, and I think what came out of it is Tom's always at the epicenter of all these kind of different things happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so in many weird ways, he's a representative of the human race in all of this. Yeah. And so I think through this experience, he will find a way to elevate everyone. Pope doesn't have that foresight. I think he's very stuck in his ways, and sort of represents that.
Oh, if Pope was up there, forget about it. If it was Pope instead of Tom, it would have been a very different story.
Yeah, but, in Weaver giving away his guns, it felt like just the human race being emasculated. Like, how many? We've never seen Dan without a gun.
No, it's true. We've never seen him without a gun.
And he's just so depressed. Let's live to fight another day.
Yeah. Well, you saw him very weak, and then also with the mild heart attack.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I thought that was very interesting. Him and his daughter. He says, "Don't tell Tom." And I think what's nice about this episode is we wrap up a lot of different things, but we also set up for an amazing season 4.
Yeah.
So, Well,
I'm guessing that scene was really just to set up next season on where Weaver's going to be or how capable he's going to be.
And even in this episode, it just meant like, okay, no matter what type of resistance that they were going to take at the moment we were watching that instance, you knew that, okay, yes, he may want to lead, but is he a capable leader given his condition?
Well, I think it does two things. I think it does that, like you said, and I think also what it does is it gives his motivation for not wanting to fight, especially in the scene with his daughter. Ever since Jean has been in the picture, or as her character has joined the cast, he's been a little bit more protective. He's thought a little bit more about his life. Actually, I gotta be honest. I'm a little surprised. It's not the first time that Weaver has gone on a somewhat of a suicide mission, but I was even surprised this episode to see him and Pope, who, Pope even, I don't think Pope knew he was a decoy, but Pope was pretty upset when he realized he was a decoy in Chicago. To see them willing to sacrifice themselves, because I think Weaver definitely wants to live more than he used to. But last season, he had that one episode where he totally had a mental breakdown, and he totally was more suicidal then. Now he's kind of, I guess he did it for a good reason, but this scene shows his motivation for wanting to hang back a little bit.
And I think through Tom, he's sort of experienced loss. He's seen Tom going through it. I mean, obviously, we'll talk about the big reveal that with them not being dead. As you were correct, so congratulations on that, Nando.
Yeah, I get one.
But at the time, it makes Weaver wonder. Okay, I've basically lost so many things in my life. I'm seeing my call it best friend go through this, and he lost a child. He lost the one he loved. So I don't want to lose my daughter.
Yeah.
That's as great as Tom's family may be, that's his blood right there. And he doesn't, he still wants some time on this planet with her.
But again, it was a quick scene, and plot-wise, it didn't really advance anything. I think it was just character building for Weaver, and also set up maybe for next season as to how efficient he's going to be, what kind of a fighter he's going to be next season.
Let's talk about Lourdes and Hal. I thought, you know, in terms of little scenes, I thought that was...
boy. Yeah.
Well, what'd you think?
Well, first of all, really interesting. Well, I guess because the Rebel Skidders, they left their encampment. They didn't have the medicine to get the eye worms out of Lourdes to begin with, and then also they wanted to keep the eye worms in there. I guess, like they said, bait for Karen. Karen could sense where they are with Lourdes there. But yeah, really, really interesting. Hal obviously is the only other person in that camp who has dealt with more or less what Lourdes has dealt with. So just seeing him reach out to her and try and calm her.
And again, one of those moments where, you know, despite this tragedy, the human spirit will live on, right? You know, and Hal had that line of like, okay, will people forgive her actions, you know, even though it really wasn't her? And he said, you know, you protected me in the past, so now I'm gonna help save you.
Yeah.
And although
it's really touching.
Yeah. So you know, it's just a great moment, and eventually, I guess Lourdes is saved.
Yeah, well, eventually we'll get to that. But notice how even like right before that moment, Pope still calls her a freak. So I mean, I guess she still is. She's like a feral animal. They have her handcuffed, or they had her in a cage at that ending at the end, just like some beast. So obviously she's got ways to go.
So you know, I could see to the point where, okay, if someone's sick, you know, you can't. They're just sick, you know. If there's a cure for it, then there's a cure. You know, it's not really the person. And granted, their actions are their actions, but it's a symptom of the sickness. Now, if they're, you know, if they're the Volm or the fish head, then okay, then that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
You know, then I get that. But he's, you know, Pope isn't able to see beyond what's there, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's Pope, though.
Well, no, like I said, quick to judge.
What did he tell Lyle if Napoleon would have been amazed to have you in his army? And Lyle's like, thanks. He didn't know how to take that.
Yeah, well, I don't think Lyle knows big words like Napoleon.
I don't think he. I think the bigger thing is I don't think he knew if it was a compliment or not.
No, I know.
He just took it as a compliment.
I was joking about Napoleon. I'm sure he knows who Napoleon is.
Perhaps.
But yeah, I don't think he understood what term, how he was being labeled at that moment. So,
you know, and obviously them kind of leaving is the fall of Popetown.
Popetown. Well, I mean, Popetown's back in Charleston, so they left Popetown from the start, but just a matter of what's going on next for them. Yeah, I guess perhaps there won't be a Popetown. I mean, if we're zooming into that, I mean, yeah, they what's interesting is at least the way this looks for next season. It looks like a return to season 1, where they're on the run, where they're wandering. They don't look like they're going to be stationary right now.
Well. What destinations could they have?
Well, they said they were going to go to Charleston just to warn the people that they left behind over there about the relocation to Brazil plan that the Volm have. And then they didn't seem to have a plan exactly where to go. So, again, it's really interesting because they're on the run. It's almost interesting because they're from Massachusetts originally. They're from Boston, and they're being told to leave their home in Boston and go anywhere else, but they don't want to stay stationary in Charleston. So I'm a little confused by that too. I guess we'll see exactly where they're going.
I think you know, what was nice about this season, as represented by the family, who we don't quite know what happened to. You know, there's other factions still out there, and you know, we saw President Hathaway. So there's still hope out there. I
believe that's what they were going to do. They were going to search for Hathaway's group also and build a human resistant movement, is what they said.
You know, and I think, I mean, in terms of holding down the fort anywhere, how symbolic would it be just to go down to Washington, D.C.?
That would be pretty symbolic.
You know?
Yeah.
Let's hold the fort down there and expand from there.
It doesn't sound like they had I mean, those weren't the cities that were mentioned in
Boston, Chicago, New York,
and it was, what was it? Jacksonville. Was it Jacksonville? It was a Florida. It was a Florida city.
It was Jacksonville, but I was going, of all places.
It's a little out there. Why not Atlanta? Yeah, that would have been, or Miami. That would have been bigger. But Jacksonville, yeah. So nothing against anyone listening from Jacksonville.
Anyway, just kidding. Just kidding.
There goes Jacksonville.
Hey, no, if you're from Jacksonville, you know, we apologize. Still rate and comment, give us 5, tell your friends about it. You know what? And you accumulate enough friends out of Jacksonville, you might just be able to move.
It's a good place for a segue.
I've never actually been to Jacksonville. I'm just, you know, just shitting on your stomping grounds for no reason.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Story-wise, it was great to see, you know, Karen was always kind of this foil over our heads for this entire season and what's going to happen with her. And she comes back.
Well, yeah, this was really interesting. I mean, we expected her to come back in some capacity. And to be honest, I thought it was a little predictable that she'd probably come back saying, the Volm aren't all they seem to be. Let's work together type of thing. But I wasn't too surprised to see that big reveal about Anne and Lexi being alive. But I guess seeing Karen die was huge for me. I'm amazed that they killed her off.
Well, it's big because remember, and I think it's called Strange Brew. We might as well just call it the Inception episode.
Yeah.
You know, Tom kills her, right? In his whatever dream.
Point blank, yeah.
And so, you know, I know a lot of fans that wrote into us were like, okay, is Tom really capable of such an action, such a violent action? Apparently he is.
Apparently he is. I mean, she was still alive when he shot her, but the fact that he shot her, she had a white flag up.
That's what's most surprising.
Yeah.
You know?
That he didn't even honor that, you know, that white flag. Which I can understand because they've been very deceptive before. It's like, do you really trust Karen with a white flag or not? So I can understand that.
Was that Tom's anger showing through more than his diplomacy? Where he's like, okay, you killed my...
Oh, yeah. I believe so. I believe that was no ounce of diplomacy. I mean, if anything, I'm surprised he didn't want to wait and see what this gift was. Maybe he felt that was her coy way of saying she was going to shoot him. But I would have at least been curious to see what the gift that she was going to offer was, and then he would have seen Anne and Lexi alive. And I think that's obviously where most of his hatred came from, thinking that Karen killed him.
Yeah, and you know, so I'm glad that. It's great that it didn't happen because, you know, it just goes to show that Tom is capable of doing what he needs to do. Unlike his son, Hal, who said, okay, remember when they did the episode where they left to go on the search mission?
Yeah.
I forget who looks at Hal, but like, will you know what to do? I'll get Karen.
Yeah. And
he didn't. It was our girl, Sarah Carter.
Well, I was surprised. I mean, well, first of all, I mean, whether it was legit or not, I mean, Karen seemed to revert back to her old Karen in that little speech. She seemed to.
Yeah, but how was Hal when he was on?
Well, true. Hal had his moments of being of also like
manipulative.
Pretending, yeah, manipulative. Well, she looked like she was dying, like she was still dying from the gunshot wound, and then Maggie just shut her up for good, like that second, which I thought was a very shocking. I thought it was a very, very shocking scene, seeing Maggie just do that without any consideration, any I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, any pity. I just thought
pity. Okay, you didn't see Hal's wandering eyes down to Karen of like, I might still like her.
Well, yeah, but I did see that, but I still felt like give her she was obviously in the throes of dying, so it was kind of like didn't even give the last moment of her humanity, what seemed to be her humanity, finally coming back out and talking to Hal. I don't know. I just thought that was I thought that ended up being a pretty brutal scene. I'm surprised. Well, I guess we're going to see more about Hal and Maggie next season, about like how that affects the relationship, because it did hint at it toward the end there that he's still a little shaken up about seeing Karen die like that.
Yeah, and you know, and what's great is that it comes off such a great episode of last week when, you know, they almost died, and it's like, okay, I love you.
Yeah.
And you know, now. Well, I love you, maybe?
Well, yeah, I love you, maybe. Well, even the scene in the beginning when they were preparing for getting the tower down, and Hal and Maggie are talking, and Hal's talking about, oh, the war's going to be over. I'm going to get me a house and, you know, settle down. And Maggie's like, I'm just good at fighting. I'm just going to be a fighter. So it's just obvious they see each other very differently. And whereas Hal seems to have gotten, I don't know, for lack of a better way of saying it, soft. gotten a little soft. He wants the war to end. He wants things to go, wants to have a normal life. Maggie is just incredibly aggressive and has no problems at all shooting anybody at all. And yeah, I guess we're definitely going to see a lot more with those two next season. And see maybe the good side or the bad side of Maggie, because I think Maggie's getting a little darker. Honestly, I think it's something to look toward.
It would have been interesting. I think even Tom was saying it. Is this piece like what what's kind of next and things like that. And before they're even given a chance of okay, can we go back to just normal life? Obviously, that's not happening.
Yeah. So
in many ways, at least for now, Maggie stays Maggie. So I don't know. I think they'll definitely have a dynamic, but I don't think it's going to be normalcy versus okay, we got to continue war and fighting because that's all I know how to do. I think we're in the state of war, so we're going to fight because that's what has to happen. Yeah. Not because we choose to have that happen.
Well, don't forget also that I mean, just like with Hal and Lourdes, Hal showed some compassion toward Lourdes as well because he had gone through that. Yep. And there was a little bit of that maybe between him and Karen at the end. Again, could she be manipulating him? Well, we won't know now, but for the sake of what we've seen, it looked like she was being sincere. I mean, who's to say, like, if Maggie was near Lourdes and something similar was happening, she wouldn't just shoot Lourdes now? No. And I think that's something, especially for a family type of sci-fi show like this is. I'm sure it's going to come into play again where Maggie's gut decisions like that. She's turning more into Pope in a way like that. That's something Pope would do.
I just think down to the simplest thing, it's she saw her guy looking at his ex and was like, all right, enough. I think that's what it was.
All right. So in this world, it's all good. Shoot your ex.
I'm not saying it's all good. I'm just saying that's what she was going through.
Yeah. No, I definitely saw that.
And she could justify it through everything that we're talking about here. But I think deep down it was like, okay, he's my man.
There was that too. No, I agree. There was definitely that part of it as well.
So speaking of Lourdes, she's a crazed animal.
Crazed animal.
And Anne comes back. This is just a whirlwind of emotion for Tom.
Anne and creepy Lexi. 6-year-old creepy Lexi.
Yeah. Okay, the big debate, I know as kind of I was watching it, I was reading the tweets. What's the time frame between last we saw them and now?
It's a good question. I would have to say, I would have to feel it's like at least 2 months.
Okay.
Because you figure the time it took Tom to go
the search party
back and forth, and well, maybe not. 2 months at the most. I would say 2 months at the most, because they had to plan. The Vuln weapon had to be up between a month and 2 months.
So it's going to be interesting. Obviously, the big thing for season 3 is what the hell is this baby going to do?
And how old is she going to get? Like, when's she going to stop growing?
Yeah.
And what's the mystery about her? That last scene was really, really interesting. The fact that she went over to Lourdes and was able to just, like, calm her down and then get all the eye worms out and just crush them. So that was such a, like, a very interesting scene as well.
Here's the cool part for me, and I want to get your take on this. Right, going back to when we actually when Anne was really worried about the baby, and Tom said, it's a beautiful baby.
Yeah.
And if the theme of all of this is just how great family is in the human spirit, despite her mutation, which almost seems like Jean Grey from X-Men, to an extent. So I hope we're not going down that road. But it seems like the human side of her will win out, and she'll use these powers for good, unlike Jean Grey in X-Men.
I think that's the hope, and I think also, like Jean Grey, and also I think it all depends on who's raising her. I mean, she's being raised by the humans, so she gets to, and she seems to be incredibly smart, and seems to pick up on things very, very quickly. So I think it really just depends on her upbringing. As long as she's around Tom and Anne.
And I think as long as she's not looked down upon in any sort of way, I think as the baby formed, she was very intuitive of what's going on.
Yeah.
She was like, hey, mommy, me?
Well, it's going to be curious to see how everyone treats her, especially with people like Pope so willing to call out people are freaks because of the way they are. I mean, this is somebody who's turned 6 years old in a very short amount of time. And other than the fact that Tom saw her as a 6-year-old, he's never seen her be extra creepy or do anything extraordinary until that moment where she had the eye worms and crushed them. So I also wonder like how are they going to try and keep this as much of a secret as possible amongst the troops, amongst everybody else? Because I would think that might freak people out.
And it's also great to, through the brothers, each of them has such a different personality and a different take on it. Whereas Ben's kind of in the middle ground, I feel like. Hal's kind of, in some sense, becoming the weak one. And then young Matt is like, he's just all out war. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And the other thing that we still haven't figured out yet is, all right, we know that Lexi has some kind of alien DNA, but what kind of DNA is this? Is this some kind of special strain that she got from the Overlords when Karen had them at the end of last season? Is this Espheni? Is this Skitter? Is this Volm? I think it's Volm, honestly, and I think the fact that the Volm haven't really been able to see Lexi yet. I think that'll be something really key to look forward to if we see the Volm interacting with the humans again next season, and if they run into Lexi, it'll be a very curious thing to see. Yeah, I think we had the Volm weapon. I think she could be their greatest weapon.
She could be, she could definitely be their greatest weapon.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, that's going to be quite interesting.
Yeah. And I wonder how old will she be when we start next season? That's the other thing. If she ages so fast.
It depends how. I think if I had to predict, I think we're going to be like 6 months ahead. Yeah, I would think. Because that's going to kind of, we still may be wandering, but it's enough that some things are established.
I would say take an eye out and see if they have any casting news for who's going to play adolescent Lexus. I would think that we're going to see a much older Lexus than the girl that we saw at the end of this episode.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. So that'll be fun. Do you want to kind of do favorite moments of the season?
Favorite moments of the season. I really did like the Strange Brew episode. I did like
it was a fun episode.
It was fun for no other reason, but it was pretty much fun. I do. That was like probably the big one out of all of them for me, and I also just liked. I have to say, especially Lourdes, the last episode. I really liked. I liked the way they played her off as the mole. I did like last.
She's been great.
Yeah.
For me. The Strange Brew episode was great. The one where Pope and Tom, come back from Hathaway.
Oh yeah,
that was good. They had a nice balance of just as things were kind of about to get big and things like that, and we were going to expand in some sort of ways. We brought it back down to the human aspect of things.
Yeah,
and I thought that I know it's different than past seasons, but I thought that really worked well in terms of what the overall message of this season was.
I think that was good. Also, the one with the what was the name of that episode? The picket line with the family.
Yeah,
the family. I thought that was a really interesting one too, just to see a family out there living on their own and see how different their different views and that was an interesting one too. I had a lot of favorites. It was a pretty good season, I thought.
Yeah,
it was a fairly good season.
There was a lot going on. My favorite moment was Hal with the mirror. We thought that was really good acting on his part. Remember?
Oh, the mirror. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
No, I know what you're talking about. That was a very Spider-Man Green Goblin moment. I remember I said, yeah. That was really good acting on his part.
So speaking of that, let us know what you guys think, of your favorite moment. And you know what? Why not open it up to all the seasons? 3 seasons thus far. Let us know what you guys think of your favorite episode, whether on YouTube, iTunes, whatever. But let's head into predictions for season 4.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
All right. I think obviously, the child's gonna be a weapon. if nothing else, it's just in sci-fi, and there's just a thing about children. You remember, like, even in The Matrix, when we were coming up on the third one, and that's why it's probably not even going to be the case that she's going to be that big. But, like, even, like, they made out to be, like, you know, the child is the chosen one or something like that. They had, like, teasers of that, and she never really did much. So I don't know.
I agree. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more to the child. I think at some point, we'll probably see a lot more of the Volm. Maybe the Volm working a little bit with the humans, or the humans getting in the way, as the Volm called it this episode. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Volm try and take Alexis for themselves, for use in their own war.
Who's worse, the Volm or the Espheni?
That's a good question. I think that's definitely something that's going to...
Do we fight the Volm with the Espheni, or do we fight the Espheni with the Volm?
I think that we're going to see more questionable things from the Volm, and it's going to make it almost more enticing to side with the Espheni. I mean, I'm predicting Karen's definitely dead, so it's going to be interesting to see how the Espheni would communicate with everybody, since Karen was their main spokespiece. I
think, for me... It's going to be interesting. I think we're going to win back the Volm. I think we saw a glimmer of it. I think they're going to feud a little bit. And it's going to get to a point where it's, okay, you know what? The humans are more beneficial to us as our allies. You know, and we don't need to detain them or whatever you want to use as the term. I think, you know, we could fight alongside each other in battle.
I think Maggie's going to get taken. I think Maggie's going to get taken.
We're taking the best recruits?
I think she's going to get taken by the Espheni. I think she's going to turn into the next Karen.
No.
I honestly think, I hate to say it, but I think she might end up turning into the next Karen. I feel like someone's going to have to become the next Karen. So
is Cochise going down?
I don't know. I think Cochise will stay alive for a while. We need somebody that's going to be kind of on the human side in the Volm, even if everyone else, like the commander, doesn't understand the humans. We need at least one person there.
You know what? It's going to be interesting. I feel like we're going to have an expanded role for Dr. Kadar, because he's going to...
he's been great.
He's been great, and we're going to have to understand Lexi, and what better person than that. And also, okay, this is a man who just operated the Volm weapon. Clearly, he's got something going on, and so, you know what? If we're going to battle anything, Espheni or Volm, this is the man to build it.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Kadar, congratulations on season 4. You will be used heavily, according to me.
We were predicting that you will be back on season 4
in a heavy role.
A heavy role.
Anyway, I gotta say, Nando, it's been a fun season.
Yeah, it's been great.
You know, it's been a blast.
Can't wait till next season.
It's been a blast talking about it with you, and hopefully you guys agree as well at home. This is the last time we're doing it for season 3, so you know, now's the time to really talk off air with us, because we're not going to be back next week. Nando, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Nando Vel.
And you can find Nando on other AfterBuzz TV shows.
Yes.
He's going to be starting up soon here.
Once the fall season kicks in.
I know. Anyway, follow us here at AfterBuzz TV for all the latest. That's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. We do 50 other after shows pretty much every week, and over 200 in our full roster, so there's plenty to keep you busy now that Falling Skies is over. Thank you, and until next season.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.